Hello everyone, welcome to the second tutorial for applied probability. And in this tutorial, we'll mostly be focusing on conditional probability, which is what was taught in the last week by Susan Touch. And let's begin. So the first question says, the probability that it is Friday and that a student is absent is 0.03. So this gives us is probability that the student is absent and that it is a Friday. So A is for student being absent and F is for Friday. This is 0.03. Since there are 5 school days in a week, the probability that it is Friday is 0.2. So they've also given us the probability that it is Friday, which is 0.2. We need the probability that a student is absent given that today is Friday. I've underlined the word given because this is an identifier for conditional probability. Why is that? Because once we're given something, we are restricting our sample space. This is basically what conditional probability is. So we need to find the probability that the student is absent given that today is Friday. Is equal to A intersection F over probability of F 0.03 over 0.2. This is equal to 0.5. Let's move on to the next question. I'm recording this after the live tutorial because I forgot to record the first 3 questions. So I'm just going to merge the files together. So after the third question, it's going to go back to the live tutorial. So the second question says, a man is known to speak the truth in 75% of the cases. If he throws an unbiased die and tells his friend that it is a 6, what is the probability that it is actually a 6? So what are we given here? We're given that the probability that the man is going to speak the truth is 75%. So let's first define some events. Let event E1 be the event of getting a 6. Event E2 is the event of not getting a 6. But let E be the event that the man reports a 6. So the man tells you that the die is a 6. ये अलग बात है कि वो सच बोल रहा है. We know that the probability of E1, that is कि die के ऊपर 6 आएगा, is 1/6 because that is fair. Probability of E2 is equal to the probability of E1 complement, which is equal to 5/6. Given this information, what is the probability that the man reports a 6, given that a 6 has actually occurred? Well, think about it. Like dice के ऊपर 6 आया और उसने भी बताया आपको कि it's 6. So that's just the probability of the man telling the truth, which is given in the question. A man is known to speak truth in 75% cases. So the probability of man speaking truth given that the die is rolled as a 6 is equal to the probability of truth which is equal to 0.7. Similarly, probability of this not getting a 6, but say, reporting a 6 is the probability of a lie, which is the complement of truths, and that just gives us 0.25. So now we want to find out, okay, what is the probability that it is actually a 6? So we want to find out E1 given E. किसने बोला है कि 6 है? But we want to see the probability क्या है? Actually 6 only. This is just probability of E intersection E1 over probability of E. Note that the conditional probability formula states that probability of A given B is equal to probability of A intersection B over probability of B. Rearranging this formula, we get an expression for the intersection, which we can now write as probability of E. No, okay, sorry. We want the dice is actually a 6. The probability of E1 times the probability of E sub E1, जो कि हमें ऊपर given है. What is the probability of E though? We don't know that. लेकिन हम इसको देख सकते हैं, the law of total probability suggests through the intersection of its partitions. वो law of total probability बस ये कहता है कि अगर, let me draw this in a different color, अगर ये हमारा event एक A, ठीक है, इसको मैं करता हूँ partition into 3 segments. This is B1, this is B2, this is B3. इसका जो intersection है A का with all of B1, B2 and B3, which can be written as the probability of A intersection BI is equal to 1 to n. This would just be equal to the probability of A, because as you can see, this intersection with all the partitions will just give A itself. That makes sense. Hence, हमारे पास सिर्फ दो ही हैं कि E कैसे हो सकता है, which is कि वो man reports 6. या तो वो असल में 6 है या तो असल में 6 नहीं है. So we can look at it as the intersection with E1 plus the intersection with E2. और इस intersection को हम अगर conditional वाली form में लिखना चाहें, क्योंकि we have the figures for that form. E given E1 over E given E1 plus probability of E given E2 and now all we have to do is plug in the values. This turns out to be 3 by 4 into 1 by 6 over 3 by 4 into 1 by 6 plus 4 into 5 by 6. This is equal to 3 over 8. So the final answer for question 2. Moving on to question 3. blood test indicates the presence of a particular disease 95% of the times when the disease is actually present. The same test indicates the presence of the disease 0.5% of the time when the disease is not actually present. 1% of the population actually has the disease. Calculate the probability that a person actually has the disease given that the test indicates the presence of the disease. So let's label let Y be a positive test result. Let D be that the patient has got the disease. And then we want the probability that the person actually has the disease given that the test indicates the disease. We know कि test positive है. क्या probability है कि असल में ठीक है. So we want to find the probability of disease given the positive test result. ये हमने ऊपर भी देखा था, इसमें भी हम बेस यूज करेंगे. Probability of D intersection Y over probability of Y. This is just equal to probability Y given D, probability of D over probability of Y given D complement, probability of D complement. ये जो नीचे वाली term है, ये वाली, this just gives us the probability of Y. So Y का intersection with D or Y का intersection with D complement gives us all of Y. This gives us Y. Solve this. You get just plugging in the values. We know okay, sorry, let me first write down here. We know okay, the probability that the test is positive given that the disease is actually there is 95%, which is 0.95. We know okay, Y complement given D complement. sorry. We know okay, Y given D complement is equal to 0.005. Yeah. And we know okay, the probability of disease is equal to 0. What is it? 1%? 1%. 0.01. Okay. Now we have this equation. That's 0.005 times 0.99. And we solve this to get 0.657 as final answer. Just realized that I forgot to record it. I'll go over the solutions again and upload the recording. Alexa, for anyone who wants to see it later. So anyway, let's go through the question. Suppose that an ordinary deck of 52 cards, which contains 4 aces, is randomly divided into 4 hands of 13 cards each. Usually you see कि इस तरह से cards वगैरह के बारे में questions आते हैं, so you should have some basic knowledge of cards. So like you should know that there are 52 cards in a deck, and yeah, that's probably it. Like
4 aces is the maximum number of aces the deck can have, and so on. So, okay, it's randomly divided into 4 hands of 13 cards each. We are interested in determining P, which is the probability that each hand has an ace. Let E sub I be the event that the ith hand has exactly one ace. Determine P equals probability of E1 intersection E2 intersection E3 intersection E4 by using the multiplication rule. So what we really need is looking at it from an intuitive angle first. We want the probability that so the deck is randomly divided into 4 hands. We want each hand to have exactly one ace. So that just means that there can't be more than one ace in per hand, because if that's the case, then one hand would be left without an ace, and we do not want that. We're not interested in that. How do we go about solving this? We can, let's first define, we have EI as the event that the ith hand has exactly one ace. So let's first find the probability of E1. So we're going to look at our sample space. We want to pick, we have 52 cards at the moment. So what do we really need? It's just rough working. We want to choose 13 out of those 52 cards. And this is all the combinations that we can have that don't include an ace. So this would be in our denominator. Because this is all the types of hands we can have of 13 cards each. And in the numerator, we would want, so we want 1 out of the 4 aces, right? So we're gonna partition them in a way कि मैं 4 में से एक ace choose करूँगा और मुझे पता है कि पीछे कितने रह गए हैं 52 minus 4, which is 48. So out of those 48 cards, I want to choose 12. So ये जो ऊपर मेरे पास आ गया है, this is basically the number of ways I can choose 13 cards out of the 52 cards, in which I have one ace and 12 other cards. But those 12 other cards can't, none of those cards can be aces because I already chose, eliminated the 4 aces. So the second number, this one, is being chosen from 48 cards. Right? So I'm just gonna let it be like that. What do we need next? If we try to find the probability of E2, कि हमारे second hand में एक ace हो, I can't just do it on its own. I know कि मैंने पहला एक hand pick कर लिया of 13 cards, and that was out of the 52 cards. So this event is dependent on this event. So instead of just finding probability of E2, I'm going to want to find the probability of E2 given E1. तो मुझे पता है कि मैंने एक 13 cards का hand choose कर लिया out of the 52, and I know कि उस hand के अंदर एक ace है. So what am I left with now? I'm left with 3 aces, जिसमें से मैं एक choose करना चाहूँगा. And जब मैंने 52 में से निकाल लिए 13, or so 52 minus 13 would be 39. Yeah. And I've eliminated 3 aces from it, so I have 36. जिसमें से मैं 12 choose करूँगा. all of this is going to be divided by 39 to 13. इस स्टेप पे कोई कंफ्यूजन है किसी को? Looks like you guys understand. So yeah, this is the probability of E2 given कि मैंने पहले 13 cards डाल लिए जिसमें से एक case था. Similarly, using the same logic, I mean, I know कि जो E3 है, that is dependent upon both E2 and E1. So we're going to find the probability of E3 given E2 and E1. तो अब मुझे पता है मेरे पास दो एसेस रह गए जिसमें से मैं एक चूज करूंगा. I know I have 26 cards remaining, जिसमें से दो मैंने eliminate कर दिए, तो I'll have 24 left. How much I would want to pick? 12. And just divide this by 26 is 13, which is the total number of hands that I can do. So here is the last one. E4 given, हमें पता है कि पिछले तीनों events जो हैं वो इसको influence करेंगे. But the thing is, we've already chosen 3 hands जिसके अंदर ace था. So automatically, the fourth hand would need to have the fourth ace. So this key probability is just going to be 1. Yep. So now we know the probability of E1. What do we want? We want in चारों का intersection. Let's just look at the first two first. अगर मैं इनको multiply करूं, E1 multiplied by the probability of E2 given E1. तो हमें conditional probability के formula से पता है कि this is just E1 intersection E2. Similarly, if I multiply E1 E2 given E1 and E3 given E2 E1, I would get in तीनों का intersection, which is E1 intersection E2 intersection E3, and so on. Fourth के लिए भी is the same rule applies. So we just find the intersection of all 4 events by multiplying the values we just found. Multiplied by E3 given E2 E1. And we don't need to multiply the last value because that's just 1. So this would take a while to calculate, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But किसी को कोई confusion है in the solution itself? All right, let's move on. The meeting might end in a bit, so if we're not done by then, just join using the same link. So consider 3 urns. Urn A contains 2 white and 4 red balls. Urn B contains 8 white and 4 red balls. नजर आ रही है स्क्रीन? Okay, perfect. It's time खत्म होने वाला है in 1 minute, so just join the link again. We just have 2 more questions left, and that's it. Moment, did you have a question? So we just want the probability that A is white, given that there are a total of 2 white balls. This is equivalent to conditional probability का formula ही डालते हैं इसके. We need the intersection of A being white with a total of 2 white balls divided by the probability of giving 2 white balls. 2 white balls किसी से भी हो सकती हैं, वो like A B से हो सकती हैं, B C से हो सकती हैं. So we're going to account for that. Is my screen visible? Thank you. Okay, so where were we? Just a sec. Yeah, so we want the probability that A is white, the ball taken from urn A is white, with the intersection of both balls being white. So ये का तुम्हें पता है कि white होगी. So this can be in 2 ways. A white हो, B white हो, और C ना हो white. हम इनको ऐड कर सकते हैं. These are mutually exclusive events. A white हो, B ना हो white, and sorry, C is white. All of this is divided by, let's keep it like that. You don't know white. So we know that urn A has 2 white and 4 red balls. So we can, just a second. Yeah, so this would be 2/6 multiplied by, we know urn B has 8 white and 4 red balls. So this would just be 8/12. And urn C has 1 white and 3 red balls, and we don't want it to be a white ball, so this would be 3/4. Okay, उसकी red ball होगी, probability, plus 2/6, 4/12 to earn B से ना white हो, and 1/4. All of this is divided by the same as above. So I'm just gonna zoom to ऊपर वाले here and just add the third and final option, जो है कि B और C में से white balls निकली और A में से नहीं निकली. So that would just be 4/6 times 8/12 times 1/4. This comes out to be 7/11. This is a fairly easy question, but if there is any confusion in the solution, do ask. Okay, let's move on to the final question.
सर
Yeah.
ये
Yeah.
डिनोमिनेटर कैसे कैलकुलेट किया आपने? प्रोबेबिलिटी दैट देयर आर 2 वाइट बॉल्स.
वो ऐसे किया कि we know 2 white balls के 3 तरीके हो सकते हैं. या A और B में white ball आएगा और C में नहीं आएगा. A और C में आएगा या और B में नहीं आएगा. And the final is B और C में आएगा और A में नहीं आएगा. तो मुझे लिख देना चाहिए था, लेकिन I just assumed here कि मैं ऊपर वाली ही चीज को कर रहा हूँ.
Okay.
So this is just ये जो numerator है ना, all of this plus this.
Okay.
So the all the probabilities added up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, good. So moving on to the last question. A bag contains 4 red and 6 black balls, and another bag contains 3 red and 5 black balls. One of the two bags is selected at random, and a ball is drawn from the bag which is found to be red. Now they're giving us information. They're telling us that the ball हमने निकाली है, it's red. So it limits our sample space, which makes it a conditional question. इसमें given कहीं नहीं लिखा, लेकिन you should intuitively understand that this is conditional probability. The probability that the ball is drawn from the second bag is 15 over p, and we need to find the value of p. So basically, we need to find the probability. Fraction में आएगी, so we will automatically find this value. Just give me a second. Try to solve this on your own in a minute, and then I'm gonna go over it with the quiz. Okay, so we're given that the bag, there is one bag that contains 4 red and 6 black balls. So there is bag 1. It has 4 red and 6 black. And there's bag 2. And that bag has 3 red and 5 black balls. One of the two bags is selected at random. There's no information given, so we can assume it's uniformly random. So the probability that we choose bag 1 or bag 2 is 0.5. And the ball is drawn from the bag, which is found to be red. So we know the probability of choosing. So we want the probability that the ball is drawn from the second bag. The probability of choosing bag 2 is 0.5. And the probability of, so we want the probabilities of selecting the red ball from the first bag and the second bag, which is going to help us solve the whole question. So we want कि पहले bag में से red हो. So I'm just going to say R1. 1 denotes case from bag 1. We know that this is 4 over 6 plus 4, which is just 4 over 10. And the probability of R2 is equal to 3 by 8. So now what do we want? We're given that the ball is red, right? we want the probability of what do we want? We want the probability of the second. We want the second bag. So R2 given that the ball itself is red. So we know that इसको ना मैं just to make it easier to understand, I'm going to write it as probability of bag 2 given that the ball is red. Okay. So we have the probability of bag 2. We multiply it with the probability of the ball being red in the bag. So that's just R2. And we divide this by the total number of, like the total probability that we can have. The other option is, okay, the ball can be from the first bag. So we can divide this by जो bag 1 से हो कि हम bag 1 चूज करें और उसमें से रेड बॉल निकले, या फिर हम वही के bag 2 चूज करें और उसमें से red ball निकले. So this just becomes 1 by 2 into 3 by 8 over 1 by 2 into 4 over 10 plus 2 by 8. Okay. This solving this will give us 15 over 31. What did we need? We needed precisely that, fraction in the form of 15 over a certain integer. And from this, we can say okay, p is equal to 31 just by comparing the two. Any questions on this? Okay, clear here. So I'm going to end the tutorial here unless you have some other questions regarding the quiz. इसकी शुरू में recording में जरा issue आ गया था, so I'm going to re-record the previous questions जो नहीं हुए थे, and I'll upload it by tonight. So if there are no questions, thank you for joining and best of luck for your quiz. I'll have my office hours on Monday. If you have any other confusions regarding the quiz, you can always contact me or Sarah for that.